in the chat, but be sure to enter to win a free seat to our MBA application bootcamp. We'll be sharing some more details in this presentation. And thank you so much for being here with us tonight. So we are going to be talking about how to get into your dream school, specifically your dream MBA programs. And we have an awesome panel lined up. And again, really excited to be here with you. There's another link here. If you want to create a free Leland account, this will enable you to take a look at some of the products, offerings, free resources that we offer. It'll also allow you to stay in the loop for more free events like the ones we're running tonight. So would definitely encourage you to sign up and create a free Leland account. And with that, we will get started. So quick event logistics. If you have questions, please ask those questions in the chat. We will be monitoring the chat myself and the panelists as well. Erica is also on the ops team here helping us run a smooth event. Thank you, Erica, for your help. Please be respectful and supportive of other applicants. Want to have a really good, nice event tonight. And then be sure to sign up for Leland so that you can access the recording if you're not able to stay till the end. That said, for the bootcamp giveaway, you must be here live in attendance, and we will be at the end, and that's when we'll be announcing the winner of the giveaway. So if you are entering to win, we'd encourage you to stay because you must be here live to win that giveaway. And with that, here's our agenda. So we're going to do some quick introductions so you can get to know me running the panel, the ops team that's supporting, as well as the great panelists that we have here tonight. We'll give a quick overview of the MBA application. We'll have our expert panel where we'll do a deep dive into specific application questions and get their tips and strategies on how to set yourself apart. And then we'll have a final word. So with that, I'm Andrew. I've been a part of the Leland team since the very beginning. Formerly worked at LinkedIn in business operations. Just graduated from Kellogg in June with my MBA. And super familiar with the MBA application process and have been helping and coaching people for the last several years. And then, as mentioned, we have Erica, who will be running the chat, making sure we have a really nice, smooth event. And Amanda has also put in a lot of work to make this event happen. So thank you, Leland team, for making this event happen. And then we've got incredible panelists, even better. We've got Melanie, Yash, and Mike, who are so nice to join us tonight and share so many great tips about the application process. So want to pass it over to you, Melanie, and then we'll have Yash and then Mike go. Do you mind just taking a quick second to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, happy to do it. Thanks, everybody, for joining tonight. We hope that you find this valuable and get some actionable insights. As for who I am a professional coach. I work as an executive coach, and I have helped over 100 people get into top business schools around the world, including the M7. I myself am a Columbia Business School graduate, have been featured in Forbes, and also am ex-McKinsey. So I can bring those fun consulting tools to the work that we do together. But overall, really, I think my style is one where I try to get to know each applicant that I work with in detail, really understand who you are, what drives you, and what makes you unique. What's going to allow you to really stand out amongst all the other applicants and to truly find the heart of your story. So with that, happy to pass it to my other panelists. And if you'd like to talk to me, you're welcome to message me through Leland, and I'm happy to share with you my HBS application guide. So on to Yash next.
Thanks, Melanie. Hey, everyone. It's great to see everyone, and thanks for joining us. My name is Yash Gupta. I graduated from the GSB at Stanford in 2023. I've been coaching candidates since 2018. First, I started off coaching the deferred application primarily, which is what I went through for GSB and HBS. And then since starting at GSB, I've coached candidates across the pool for both M7 programs and then all the other programs as well. Really, really excited to have this panel tonight with these other amazing panelists. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out anytime during the conversation, and then always happy to do one-on-one calls following tonight as well. Mike, I'll pass it on to you.
Great. Thanks, Yash. And it's great to be with you all this evening. My name is Mike, and I recently left Stanford, where I worked for about 16 years. I've been first started as a student at Stanford, even before that, graduated from the MBA program, but came back to the GSB to run, was the executive director of their Center for Leadership Development and Research. And really helped to launch the MBA leadership curriculum at Stanford, and worked for many years with MBA students, in the context of the curriculum, taught some courses. Then I took over the mid-career program, the Stanford MSX program, and ran both the program and the admissions for a little over a decade. And in that process, really got, close to the admissions process. And so, having read thousands of applications, learned quite a bit. But I would say that my longer term trajectory is really on leadership development and education. And I see admissions as being really a step in that longer journey. And so when I work with people, it's really, trying to keep the long-term vision in mind in terms of where you're trying to get to, what you're trying to accomplish, making sure that your journey through business school is really on track to help you in that longer-term vision. And I try to bring, essentially some of the insights that I gained over, many years working in the admissions office around how you can align essentially that intention with the results that you want, which is, to get into a really good school and get that education so that you can be on your way.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the intros. As you can see, we've got a stacked lineup. And as each of them mentioned, you can reach out to them directly for free intro calls, get to know them. And then if you are interested in working with them directly, getting support on your applications, you can do that as well. So Erica has dropped each of their links to their profiles, and you can reach out directly through those links. So yeah, now we'd love to get to know you. Do you mind dropping in the chat where you are working / studying? And then what is your dream MBA program? So yeah, just take a minute to answer those two questions in the chat. Would love to get a sense for who we've got in this event tonight. Awesome. Amazon, GSB, Accenture, Sloan. Got some Ross, Strategy and NASA, GSB, CBS, HBS. Cool. We've got like a good mix of backgrounds, and then also interest in different programs. So that's awesome. Yeah, keep them coming. Again, would love to keep getting a sense for like what schools you're interested in and kind of what your background is. And is also helpful for our panelists to read through so that they can tailor some of their answers towards that. So quick overview on Leland. Leland is your one-stop shop to help you break into the most competitive career paths and schools in the world. So as it relates to MBA admissions, we've helped thousands of individuals break into top MBA programs. We have over 750 coaches on our platform, ranging from current students and alum of top schools like Stanford, GSB, Columbia, Harvard, Kellogg, etc., to former AdCom from the Stanford GSB or HBS or some of these top programs. So our coaches range in expertise in different price points, have different specializations and backgrounds, and we're certain we can help you find a coach that could help you. That's kind of our bread and butter offering with the one-on-one coaching. We also offer live cohort-based courses. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this event, we are doing a giveaway for our MBA application bootcamp, and we'll learn more about that here shortly. And then lastly, we do a ton of free community events and like to share a lot of free resources to empower everybody towards accomplishing their career and educational goals, especially MBA programs as it relates to our event tonight. What's great about our business is it's working. I was just on a call earlier today with a former customer who we helped get a job at Deloitte in consulting, and then he also got admitted to the deferred MBA program at Chicago Booth, and he was just sharing with me how grateful he was for the platform we built. And really, it's special because of people like yourselves who join these events, and then our wonderful coaches who really empower people to believe in themselves, to help them articulate or tell their best stories or sell themselves effectively on interviews. And it's been really amazing to see all the impact that we've had on people's lives, and see the amazing accomplishments that they've had. So on this slide, you can see people getting jobs at BCG or Coinbase or LinkedIn, people getting accepted at Harvard Business School or Stanford Business School. It's been a real treat to be a part of this journey, and we're really excited to help more people like yourself. So thanks for being here tonight. And then with that, we're gonna do a quick dive into the MBA application. So there's a lot that goes into the MBA application. As you can see, there's the test, the GMAT or GRE, often the most stressful piece for a lot of us, including myself. There's application strategy, letters of rec, extracurriculars, awards and honors, resume, essays, interview, etc. The big question is like, where should you start? Because there's a lot that goes into this process. Melanie, do you have any quick thoughts on and maybe you can tailor it to a few different personas. So let's say you're applying round 2, you're kind of getting started, like where would you recommend starting? And then Mike, maybe we have you cover the persona, like maybe you're a year out or have like 8 to 12 months or longer, like where would you recommend beginning? So Melanie, do you mind sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm assuming, to your point, Andrew, probably a lot of people here in the call are applying in round 2. So for most schools in M7, that's going to be January deadlines. So at this point in time, there's 2 things I want to make sure you're thinking about. One is, do you have a test score that is competitive? If you don't, I would highly recommend scheduling time on your calendar on a weekly basis, making sure you're getting in those reps, getting in the time, and getting that tutor if it's within your budget. You want to have that finished primarily before you start your essays. That way it's done and you're not worrying about it. Secondly, I want you to start thinking about your story and your goals. One of my formulas that I like to use is I want you to think about, according to your post-MBA goals, what are the skills, experiences, and/or networks that you have that you bring to the table that are relevant to your goals, plus what are the skills, experiences, and/or networks that you are going to gain or up level at business school? And how does A plus B equal success in your future goals? So that's one great way to start building out your story. So I'll stop there, but those are my top tips.
Cool,
Great. Well,
Mike.
those are good.
Yeah, over to you.
Yeah, those are good ones. I think, if you have more time, if you got, let's say, a year or so out, if you're thinking about applying next year in the next cycle, it gives you an opportunity to focus a little bit about what's actually on your resume, what's actually, in your application between now and the time that you apply. And obviously, the best thing that you can do to be a good candidate is to be a good candidate, right? Is to have demonstrated academic success, to have shown, sort of a leadership mindset in the work that you do, to be a hard worker, dedicated, demonstrate some leadership attributes. But if you're talking about a year out from where you are, it's too late maybe to go back and redo your college education. But you can do a lot in a year. I would start looking at people that have been through business school that are in your network and, ask to get a coffee, spend a little bit of time, ask for some feedback just in terms of like, hey, what can I do in the coming year that would really demonstrate to you that, I have what it takes to be a top performer, not just as a student, but, as an alum of whatever business school it is that's your target. Start to get a little bit of data, essentially, how some people are viewing you. Use that to guide yourself, essentially, in the work that you do over the coming year. Because 9 months from now, if you're talking about a year out, that's really when you're going to be sitting down and planning out your application. Some of these people might be good recommenders, depending on how well they know you, but they're all going to be good sources of information or context. And some of those conversations are probably going to lead to either some projects you can do or some side work, or maybe just the way that you do the work that you do within your organization that's going to pay some dividends, so that, come 9 months later, people are going to be really thinking very positively about you. You're going to have some additional accomplishments or results that you can talk about in your application, and hopefully some validation that you can get from people that have worked with you as recommenders. So really focus on the substance as much as possible. Obviously, what Melanie said as far as preparing for tests and things like that, you'll want to make sure that you've built out some time and some planning to go into that process. Although, maybe a year out, you don't have to worry about that just yet. So I'll stop there, but happy to go into any details if anyone has questions.
Cool. Yash, anything you'd add in terms of like how long it takes to do some of these things? Like how long maybe it took you to like nail the GMAT or GRE, or how much time you actually spent crafting your application?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the GMAT GRE question is a really personal one, and it just depends on how you absorb information. So for me personally, I'm a crammer. So like it was 1 month of very intense studying where all I did was GMAT, like 12 hours a day, didn't really see friends. Wouldn't necessarily recommend that for everyone, but it worked for me in that really intensive period because I didn't allow it to sort of take up more space. Other clients that I've worked with, especially if they're working a pretty intense job, I saw in the chat a lot of your, coming from consulting or finance or tech. What I would say is, spend probably 3 months on the GMAT, time box it, and see how much improvement you can make during that time. And usually, I think for my clients, I recommend about like 6 to 8 hours per week leading up to the test. And I think usually that's enough. In terms of crafting the story, similar to what Mike described, I think like 9 to 12 months out is when I really recommend clients to start thinking about what are the schools that I want to go to, what are the applications like themes that those schools in particular are looking for. Each school is looking for something slightly different, and so I think it's tough to do something that like appeals to all schools. And so I think doing some of that planning 9 to 12 months out will really allow your activities, your resume, and your recommenders to line up really well to what each school is looking for.
Cool. All really good thoughts. And no matter where you're at, whether you're applying round 2 or whether you're applying 12 months or 24 months from now, try to get started as soon as you can. That is like the #1 tip I've heard on the many panels of these that I've hosted. But like, don't procrastinate. This stuff does take a lot of time. It does take a lot of effort, a lot of brain power, a lot of different iterations of your story to get right. So please start soon. And then I just saw a question in the chat about test prep materials. There's a lot of good ones coming through the chat from panelists and other people attending here. We also have phenomenal GMAT GRE tutors that have helped clients get great results. So if you are in need of a test prep tutor and want to save yourself a lot of headache from self-study and just put together an awesome study plan, and like diagnostics and things like that, you can work with GMAT or GRE coaches on our platform. So yeah, let's dive into the panel. To kick things off, we're going to start with our best tip for applying to top 10 MBA programs. Yash, maybe we start with you, then we'll go to you, Melanie, and then Mike, you can round us out. So over to you, Yash.
Yeah, 100%. I think the single biggest tip is be true to yourself, and like the application should feel like an authentic reflection of who you are as a person versus what you think the school wants to see from you.
Yeah, 100% I would agree with that. You have to be authentic and really understand what is your brand and really showcase that consistently throughout every single piece of your application. And in doing so, understanding what makes you unique. Sometimes people say to me, well, I'm just another consultant or I'm just another person in finance. So how do I stick out? And there is surely something that is differentiated about your life experience, your background, your skills, or even your personal interests. So really taking the time to do that self-reflection and strategic planning up front is the best thing you can do for yourself.
Great. And I just want to build a little bit on what both Yash and Melanie said. I mean, being true to yourself is important. I worked with a lot of students at Stanford, right? And I would say every once in a while I would come across students where clearly there was a real effort there to tell the admissions office what they thought the admissions office wanted to hear. And it wasn't necessarily 100% true to what their true goals were. I mean, there's just such a drive, in our culture for people to accomplish things, achieve things, get into a great business school, an HBS, Columbia, Stanford, a Wharton, or something like that. And I found that it would leave people a little adrift. And business school is a very intensive time. You're surrounded by just so many amazing people. You can explore almost any intellectual dimension or direction that you want to go in. And if you don't have a little bit of a sense of a true north, a real sense that this is really what I want to accomplish, I found it, sometimes counterproductive. The one piece of advice I'd specifically add in addition to that is really to develop, this is just a slight variation on what Melanie said, develop your narrative. There's a few things that are a given, right? You're going to have a GPA and a transcript from your prior academics. There's jobs that you've held. But outside of that, you have an essay, you've got letters of recommendation, you've got your resume, how you talk about the work that you've done, and all of that can craft essentially a narrative. And I would really try to, just for yourself, boil that down to 3 or 4 sentences, essentially describing the rationale or the value proposition that you see for yourself in terms of going to business school. And when you get to a particular business school, this business school, and make sure that you can really nail that, essentially an elevator pitch for yourself, that you're going to then work into your application, in different areas of your application, and make sure that that's communicated effectively so that when someone reviews your application, even if they're in a hurry, they're going to be able to pick that up, from different elements of your application. And it leaves an impression, it leaves them with a little bit of a story so that they can go into an admissions committee meeting and make a case, essentially for you, or feel a sense of what they'd lose if they don't have you in the program that coming year.
All really great thoughts, and echo being true to yourself, being honest, being genuine, thinking less about what do we think the adcom wants to hear, and just like painting a clear depiction of who you are, how you see the world, the impact you want to make in the world throughout your career, and why you'd be like a good candidate for the specific MBA program and how you'd contribute to that community. So yeah, really good thoughts, and thank you all for sharing. We talked some about timeline, so we're going to skip that. What are the primary differences? So we're going to get tactical about the specific parts of the application, because we want each of you to walk away and say, okay, when I'm going to write my resume or when I'm going to write my essays, I'm going to remember these tips and I'm going to implement the tips and strategies shared. So there are primary differences between the MBA resume and a regular job resume. Mike, maybe I'll start with you, having evaluated a bunch of applications at Stanford. What made a good resume, like a good MBA resume, and maybe what was something that wasn't so great that you saw often?
Well, I would say, just in terms of what's the difference, keep in mind if you're applying for a job like a software engineer, your resume is probably going to look very different than if you're applying for a job as a, healthcare provider, right? You're going to emphasize different experience, different skills, achievements, and basically the job essentially that you're applying for here is to be a student in this MBA program and to represent yourself as not just someone who would be a very capable student, but someone who ultimately the school would be proud to call an alum. And so, if I want to get really tactical, one thing I would say is just keep in mind that, a hiring manager in a company is going to understand a lot of the lingo from that particular field. And I find a lot of people use a lot of the, essentially the language that's common in their industry. But someone reading your application is going to be reviewing applications from a wide array of different backgrounds. They may or may not, know the particular abbreviations that are common in your work. And so you want to make sure that you're generalizing essentially the accomplishments, the achievements that you've had into, essentially management and leadership accomplishments, as well as supporting evidence that you're going to be a strong student. Essentially the faculty are going to value your contribution. So, not only your GPA and where you went to school and any academic awards that you have, but also emphasizing the intellectual rigor that you've brought to the work that you've done. So, keep in mind essentially that, people reading your applications are reading, they're reading a lot, and they're reading a diverse set of applications from different backgrounds. And so, again, you want to communicate your overall narrative through that application. You want to reduce the amount of kind of vernacular that's really industry specific, and make sure that you're providing enough context that someone who's reading your application, without necessarily a lot of deep industry expertise is going to be able to understand it through the lens of, someone who's going to be intellectually strong, someone that's going to bring some leadership and career accomplishments, and someone who has, kind of a unique voice, as Melanie mentioned.
Awesome. Yeah, just to drive that home, strip the industry jargon. I love that. And yeah, every bullet point in your resume should state like basically why a CEO of an organization would care about that, and like what was the impact that you made. And also it needs to be well-rounded, right? So like you need to show that you were involved on your undergraduate campus or on your master's campus, right? Like that is going to be a proxy of like how you're going to be involved at the business school, right? They want to see that you care about the community that you're a part of, because they're going to put their stamp on you, and you're going to go out into the world and represent that school. So they want you to like go and make an impact in the community and care for people. And then of course your professional experiences and other things that make you unique should be added. So Mike, all great thoughts. Thank you for sharing. Yash, what do the best MBA resumes accomplish? So I know that you've worked with a bunch of applicants over the last several years. Like from your perspective, what do the best MBA resumes accomplish?
So I think to go back to an earlier point that Mike and Melanie made around, having your brand in your narrative, I think the best MBA resumes are very consistent. So there's consistent themes, whether that's an industry focus that you're doing both like volunteering in and working in, whether it's a leadership focus, whether it's a technical focus. But I think consistency is really important. And I think MBA programs really look for that. And it really allows you to showcase what that narrative and brand for yourself is. And then I think the second thing is leadership. I think it's tough oftentimes to predict what someone will do, during the MBA program or post the MBA program. But I think being any sort of leadership experiences that you can highlight and the impact from those leadership experiences, I've found that those are the candidates and the clients that I've worked with that have the most success. And so I know there's some questions in the chat about like what can you do to beef up that resume between now and applying. I think like getting as much leadership exposure as possible is my number one tip to make your resume a bit stronger.
Cool. Melanie, anything you'd add on the resume front?
I think we've covered some of the key points here well. Certainly, they're looking for leadership skills, and that doesn't have to be literally leading a club or a team. That can also be coaching someone, teaching a teammate, mentorship, even if it was an intern. So there's various ways to show these leadership skills. So I would be creative about that, especially if you've never actually had a direct report or something of that nature. And then additionally, I would also be thinking about community involvement. There's been a couple questions in the chat about volunteering. Community involvement is important because the MBA programs are fairly social. Networking is a really important skill. They want to know that you're going to be an active participant in the community, that they took you over somebody else. So you want to showcase community involvement. That doesn't necessarily have to be volunteering, but it has to show that you're involved in giving back to your communities. Maybe it's an ERG at work. Maybe it's a book club that you created with your friends. So think creatively about all these different ways that you can show community engagement as well as leadership.
Awesome. Thank you
Hey,
all for sharing.
Andrew,
Mike, did you have
Andrew, can
something?
I just jump in and say one more thing, which is
Yeah.
that, keep in mind that the employment history or work history section of the application works hand in hand with your resume. And I find that many applicants underestimate the value or the importance of the employment history section of the application. You want to make sure that you do complete that, you take it seriously, and you can do a lot to describe the organizations that you're working with and the job responsibilities that you have. And in some applications, they allow you to talk about, significant accomplishments or challenges that you faced, as well as reasons that you're leaving from one position to another. Many will ask about salaries and compensation, number of people you manage. All of that is also important. It provides, sort of context to the narrative. And you want to make sure that your resume and your work history are essentially complementing each other, in ways that are useful.
Yeah, really good insight there. Thank you for jumping in and adding that. Awesome. Now we're going to talk about recommendations. So the recommendations are a really important part of the application. Maybe we start with you, Melanie. Why are recommendations so important, and how do they fit into the broader application?
Yeah, absolutely. The recommendations are important because they're getting an outsider's perspective and seeing, is it consistent with the way you're presenting yourself? Are your strengths and weaknesses or opportunities aligned? So, in my opinion, consistency here is really key to make sure that your recommenders are telling the same story and showcasing the same brand that you're doing in the rest of your application. This is also a great opportunity to tell the school something new or additive, to use demonstrative examples to showcase your capabilities. So think about it strategically, where you're not only telling a similar, consistent story, but you're giving your recommenders information or suggestions about new information that can be shared, such as a project that perhaps you weren't able to talk much about in one of your essays, or something that you had just one key bullet on in your resume that's really impressive and showcases leadership skills. So I would really think about this. And what I actually have, it's in Leland Plus, but I'd be happy to also share it with anyone that has a call with me. I have a recommendation template where basically it allows you to very thoughtfully share your suggestions with your recommender in a way that's really helpful for them, so that again, they're articulating your story in a consistent manner, but also being additive to the application process.
Cool. And just quick context, the tool that Melanie mentioned, Leland Plus. Leland Plus is our content library, and we have a bunch of like sample admit content. Many of our coaches have contributed like videos or written materials and things in there to help you navigate the MBA application process. And we've priced it at a very affordable rate. So tons of value in there, but just wanted to provide the context, given that many of the people on the event today is probably not aware of that tool or resource. So I mean, Melanie hinted at this a little bit, but there is a way to prepare your recommenders. So Melanie uses like a recommender prep template. We have also created one as a business that we like to share with our clients. But maybe Yash, could you speak a little bit about like, I guess like what is a recommender prep template, or what information should you be including in there? And how do you go about sharing that with your recommenders? You're certainly not writing your letters of rec on behalf of them, but you're doing some stuff to prepare them. Can you just walk us through kind of what that process looks like and how you've helped your clients prepare their recommenders?
Yeah, absolutely. I know we've stressed the importance of this, but I think just to double click on it, it's a super, super important part of the process, and probably the part that you have the least control over. A lot of candidates think they have the least control over, but you actually do have a lot of control over it. So I think prepping your recommenders is really important. A couple steps. I think first of all, write down for each school that you're applying to. Give that list to your recommenders, highlight the essays that you'll be writing, and then also the criteria that each school is looking for. And then what I recommend my clients to do is give essentially 2 or 3 anecdotes that tie really well to the questions or the criteria that each school is looking for. You basically want to give recommenders enough meat to work with. They might have forgotten specific accomplishments you had at work, specific, projects you led, things like that. And so that gives them enough meat to work with, but it also doesn't feel overbearing, and it doesn't feel like you're writing the recommendation for them. The other thing that I would say is, if you have 2 recommenders who may come from like different companies or like different fields of work, or are giving different stories, make sure that the anecdotes you're providing them are very specific as well. It's not important, I think, for the recommenders to say the exact same thing. I think it's more important that each of them brings a unique perspective to the table. And so I'd prep them a bit differently depending on what you think each of them can highlight from your background.
Cool. Thank you so much. Again, this is like the part of the application that you do not have direct control over. You're hiring a third-party opinion to come in and vouch for you and fight for you to get into business school. And so as much as you can, try to prepare them to write things that are complementary to the rest of your application. So if there's unique skills or interests or stories or things that you're not able to highlight elsewhere in your application, but you think it's an important part of who you are, those are the things that you should be including in your prep templates. And if you do create a prep doc and you share that with your recommenders, they're going to see how serious you're taking this process, and they're going to buy in a lot more as well. So recommendations, super important. Make sure you put in the time and effort and preparation needed to ensure that you have strong letters of rec. And again, we have tools like Leland Plus that you can actually get a free trial. So it's like a 3-day free trial. Erica dropped that in the chat, where you can start to access some of these materials. So with that, we're going to just do a quick pause. Again, for the people who joined 15, 20 minutes late, we are doing a free MBA, a free MBA application bootcamp giveaway tonight. One of you is going to walk away with a free seat to this bootcamp. It's priced at $1,200, and so it's a lot of value that you'll be getting access to. Erica will drop the link in the chat to enter the giveaway. But please be sure to enter that, and the winner will be announced at the end of this session. You must be here live in order to win. Here's just like a quick overview of what we cover in the bootcamp. So it's 8 live sessions. They're 90-minute sessions each. We're going to do one on the one session on the foundations of your application. So this is resume, extracurriculars, awards and honors, etc. Really important to get those right. Then we're going to do deep dives into letters of rec, which we just talked about. The importance of that will help you learn best practices of like who to select and how to prepare, etc. We'll do deep dives into the essays. The 3 most common schools that we see people applying to is the GSB, Harvard, and Wharton. So we'll do specific deep dives on those essays. We'll do a session on interviews, and then we'll have like an AMA office hour / workshop session to round it out. And the coaches that are going to be leading these sessions are phenomenal coaches, like the ones that you see on the panel tonight. So yeah, here's just like a quick overview. 10 hours of live feedback. We'll also match you with a peer, so you can get some peer feedback as well. We're going to have custom interactive activities that you're going to be able to review. You'll get access to some coaching as well as some discounts. We talked some about Leland Plus, which is the content library that you get access to. And then we'll have like live Q&A and the ability to network with other applicants. So here's the thing is it's $1,200. One of you is going to walk away with a free seat if you're a winner of the giveaway. But we also are doing $500 off if you book tonight. So that discount code expires tonight, but if you want to lock in a seat and get $500 off this awesome bootcamp, highly recommend signing up tonight. We do have like a refund policy that you can get a refund all the way up until the bootcamp actually starts. And then once it starts, that you can no longer get a refund, but it's a ton of value. And again, you'll get to learn from great coaches like these ones here. So Erica will be dropping that giveaway link in the chat. And good luck. We hope that the odds are in your favor and that you get the chance to win. And if not, $500 off is a really big discount. So would love for you to each take advantage of that by end of day today. And I promise you won't regret it. It'll be packed filled with great value and will really help you set the foundations of your MBA application. Awesome. Okay, just pausing for like 2 more seconds. So you each get the chance to enter that giveaway and hope and excited for one of you to get lucky tonight. Okay, now we're going to dive into essays. Essays are arguably the most important part of the application. The way that I think about and Leland thinks about the essays is we bucket them into a few different categories. So first, there's the personal statement like essays. What matters most to you and why? MIT Sloan has you write a cover letter. What values are important to you and how have they influenced you? That's the Kellogg prompt, right? There's also the why this school essays. Why Stanford? Why Columbia? Why will these schools help you accomplish your goals, right? And then lastly, there is behavioral prompts. So tell us about a time you made a positive impact. Please share an example of how you demonstrated curiosity and how that's influenced your growth, right? So a bunch of different essay prompts, and we're going to get into the weeds a little bit on good essay tips and practices. But the essays are really how you show the adcom who you are, what's important to you, what you want to accomplish in this world, how you envision your career, and why these schools will help you be a great leader in the future. So with that, Melanie, do you want to kick us off? Like, you're starting the writing process. Like, how do you even go about starting coming up with ideas and things to write for each of these essay prompts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it all starts, like I said earlier, with your story, being really clear about your story, your branding, thinking strategically about how you stand out, and having that clarity of what you're bringing to the table, what you're gaining in the MBA, and then how that's going to equal success in your goals. So once you've created that clear story and that foundation, then you can work on your essays. And funny enough, the thing I find that happens a lot is folks will actually not answer the essay prompt. So make sure that you're actually answering the essay prompt. This is a great piece of advice. Actually, literally writing down your answer using the essay prompt in your answer. That doesn't have to go into your final essay, but that's a great way to write your thesis and to start your outline to make sure you're actually answering each part of the essay question. And then additionally, some advice for some of the more challenging questions that ask you things like, what matters to you most and why, which is the Stanford question that everybody always asks questions about. For these types of questions that are asking more about who you are, truly start to do some authentic questioning about yourself. Take the time to ask yourself questions such as, what wakes me up in the morning? What gets me excited? What would I do if I had $1 billion? Right? What did I learn as a child from my parents that is part of my value system or what helps me to make decisions in my daily life? You know, if I had to live my life based on one North Star, what would that be? And really utilizing these types of questions to start that brainstorming about what truly matters to you, what your values are, what makes you who you are as an adult. So I think the key again here is taking that time to do the pre-work before you actually write your first draft, because it's going to turn out to be so much more strong. So those are some initial thoughts. And then certainly there's feedback that's available for each type of essay, but this is the right way to start. You've got to do that deep reflective work and the preparation before writing.
Love it. Yeah. Asking yourself those thoughtful questions, but not even just asking yourself, like asking your mom and your cousins and your coworkers and your peers at school, like ask them like, what makes me unique? Have we had shared life experiences that we learned something from, and just like collect a story bank from as many people as you can, and that'll like start spurring some thoughts. Mike, how do you recommend approaching that personal statement essay? So I can imagine you've read a million of the What Matters Most and Why essays. And thanks, Melanie, for touching base on this a little bit. But Mike, how do you approach that?
Well, first, I just want to agree with Melanie that, answer the question is always a good first start, right? A lot of people, they know the general sort of theme that they want to talk about, but they sort of dance around a little bit, actually giving an explicit answer to the question. But I would say that, first, you want to be thinking about your as Melanie said, your brand or your narrative. Understand, what other parts of your application, what story it's already telling in terms of, your academic background, the work that you've done. Your essay is kind of the most where you have the most control essentially over what you're going to say and a chance to articulate something about yourself. And so you want to make sure that you are being strategic about either emphasizing your strengths or in some ways providing some context or framing, some of the potential deficits or flags that might be in your application, and providing a bit of background information that can be helpful to that. So in addition to the sort of the prep and digging deep personally about what are some core elements of you want to be conscious of that going into it. The last thing I'd say is make sure that you make your first paragraph count. Keep in mind that when people are reading applications, they're not, sort of getting a cup of coffee and sitting in, casually, reading the way that they read a novel, right? Just think about Stanford gets well over 6,000 applications a year. To Harvard, it's over 9,000. Even if someone has 20 applications to review a day, when you break that down, that's 15 or 20 minutes that they have to, essentially go through an application. And sure, they've got nice software that gives them a, dashboard, and they can see a lot of different things fairly quickly and absorb a lot of information. But when it gets to the, to the essays, they're skimming, they're reading it quickly, they're trying to grasp things. So you want to reduce the cognitive load, make sure that your prose is simple. You strip out some of those adjectives that go through your language and say, what words, what phrases, what sentences can I reduce without actually taking away from the meaning of this. You want it to be dense with meaning, but not dense with a lot of, sort of fancy words. And you can be creative, but make sure that, your first paragraph, if someone ends up just skimming it quickly and all they take away is your first paragraph, you still want to leave an impression. You want to leave something that sticks with them, emotionally or in terms of your story that, is going to hopefully kind of give you a hook a little bit. So there's a lot more I can say about this, but those would be some sort of high level suggestions.
Yeah, and I would say don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Make the adcom feel something, like make them cry, make them laugh, help them sit in your shoes and see, like take a step into your shoes and just, yeah, make them feel something. And the best way to do that is telling stories, right? So yeah, thanks, Mike. Those are all really good thoughts. Yash, how do you typically work with your clients and help them articulate why Stanford, why Columbia, why Kellogg, et cetera?
Yeah, so I think to contrast it a bit with the personal statements, I think the mistake clients sometimes make is treating the essays as completely separate, but I think they actually should in some ways work together, right? So taking Stanford as an example, if your What Matters Most essay is about a specific theme, your Why Stanford essay should be how Stanford will help you achieve that theme, right? And so I think there's two things that are really important. One is that those themes are consistent across both essays. And so I think it's important to do the research to showcase how that specific school can help you achieve whatever it is that goal that you've outlined in your applications are. And then two, I think it needs to feel as if only that school can help you get to where you want to be. And I think Melanie laid it out really well earlier with her formula. Like what is that missing ingredient that the school will help you fulfill? and like why is that school uniquely positioned to make that impact on your life? And I think the more specific you can get with initiatives, professors, alumni, classes, the better. And then the more that you can tie to your long-term goals, the better.
Yeah, and I would say really hard to sell someone on why the school is perfect for you without having talked to students, having maybe visited the campus or sat in on a lecture or attended different webinars where they talk about the school. Obviously, there's a lot of research you can do online, but those are all things that are important, that like homework assignments that you should be doing now to help inform the why the school. And the last thing I'd add is don't just share why the school is going to help empower you, but also share how you're going to contribute to the campus as well. And it should be abundantly clear that when you set foot on campus, you're going to make a huge difference for the other students and for the alumni network. So with that, we're gonna we've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about resumes, we've talked about letters of rec, we've talked about essays. We've covered a lot of ground, but want to just give the panelists one last tip. If you could share one final tip to help these applicants stand out in the MBA application process, could be reiterating something we've already covered or something totally new that we didn't get the time to cover in depth. What would that be? Anyone, maybe just quick raise the hand. Anyone have something like off the cuff, or do you just want like 30 seconds to think about it?
I can.
All right. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
So I would say, be meticulous, take it very seriously, make sure that you read all the instructions, be deliberate with each field in the application that you complete. I would say one of the things that I felt frustrated with on the admissions side of the equation was, I'd read through an application, I would think, this person seems fantastic, and I can see them being a fantastic student at Stanford, but based on the application, I didn't feel like we could make that positive decision with so many other strong applicants in the pool as well. And sometimes I didn't know if it was because they didn't understand exactly what was expected, but I just felt there were many times where someone who otherwise looked like a fantastic individual and someone very, very capable, didn't really put together the best application that they could. And if there's one thing that I have been drawn to do some work, at Leland, is to make sure that, wherever you are in terms of being a potentially strong candidate for a business school, that you're able to put together, essentially the strongest application that you're capable of putting together. Because I've often felt that in reviewing all these applications, if you had the best that each person was able to present, it would kind of give you the best sense of what that talent pool looks like, and you sort of build the best class possible. So it always felt frustrating to me, but I think a lot of it is people just didn't, necessarily pay close attention, or they thought that some aspect of the application was maybe not that important. So just make sure that not just the essays, not just the resume, but really the full application gets serious attention.
Cool. Melanie, do you want to go next?
Yeah, happy to. Definitely have to reiterate what Mike said. I have seen a lot of folks send me an application after they didn't work with me and they were rejected the year prior, and they say, "What happened?" And I say, "Oh, I can see some typos in your application. Your essay is beautiful and perfect, but you clearly were rushing on other parts. So please don't do that. Please give yourself enough time for every part of the application." And then beyond that point, I would say that one thing I've been finding that can work really well sometimes in writing your essays is thinking about both showing and telling. So by showing, you want to, of course, have demonstrative examples. You want to have illustrative data points to help support whatever it is that you're talking about. But then the telling piece, I think, is helpful as well. It goes back to a point that Mike made, which is making it easy for the admissions committee to follow your essay and to understand what you're trying to say. You don't want it to be too challenging, or you don't want someone to have to read too far in between the lines to get to your point. So remember to both show and tell. Be very clear about your thesis, tell the school exactly what you want them to know, and then show them through demonstrative examples.
Awesome. Yash, bring us home.
Awesome. My number one tip would be don't do this alone. I think it's really easy to get in a vacuum with all your experiences with like you know yourself really well, but sometimes that creates tunnel vision and it's hard to like step out and think about the broader themes in your life and how everything connects. And so whether that's working with friends, family members, a coach on Leland, a mentor, like I think it's really, really important um, to bring other people along in the process. I think it'll make your application a lot stronger. And they'll also be able to highlight things about you that you might not know about yourself, which I think is one of the most rewarding parts of the whole process.
Yeah, all really good tips, and especially echo what Yash said. You need to bring in third-party, unbiased opinions who knows what it takes to get into these top programs to really round out your application, give you that harsh critical feedback. Your mom's gonna tell you that you write good essays every time, I promise. So try to go find people that know this process well and can give you that critical feedback. And that can come in a lot of different ways, but we have, again, over 750 coaches, and these are 3 amazing coaches that we have here today to help you. Erica's dropped each of their profile links in the chat. Again, go set up a free 15-minute intro call with each of them or any of them that you'd be interested in working with, and they will get into the weeds with you. On your resume, on your letters of rec, on your essays, on your application strategy, interview prep, you name it, they're going to be here in your corner helping you. As I mentioned, we had the giveaway tonight, and an exciting announcement. The giveaway winner is Ariana Khan. So if you can just send a quick email to Andrew@joinleland.com. Erica will throw that in the chat. I will be sure to get you a seat in the upcoming boot camp. So thank you so much for entering. Big thank you to our coaches. You are awesome. You're phenomenal. Can we all give them a round of applause? You could throw the emoji on Zoom, but they shared such great tips. And we really, really appreciate your time. And yes, please go work with them one-on-one. They'd love to help you. And then lastly, you do have access to that $500 discount code for the boot camp. And that expires tonight. So please take advantage of that. We'd love to see you there. And you can also set up a call with a member of our team. I actually take a lot of those calls. I love sharing a lot of tips and advice on how to navigate this process. I also love getting to know you and pointing you towards specific coaches or resources that could be of help to you through this process. So there is the link to set up a call with a member of my team. And again, I end up taking a lot of those calls. So we'd love to chat with you and make sure you have all the help and resources that you need. And with that, thank you for attending. And we are here to support you and would love to stay on this journey with you to help you gain admission to a top business school. Hope you all have a good rest of your night. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.